The video you are about to watch is not our usual content. It's mostly a slideshow of stories from our past, but you should still consider checking it out. And thanks again. Part 2 of Tabula Rasa is called How the Shaman Got Laid and the DM Lost a Friend. A friend who recently reached out to me to let me know, number 1, we're still friends, but number 2, how hurt he is to be featured in these videos, especially at a time in his life when things were not going well for him. And that's completely fair. So, Drew, I want to let you know, you're not featured in any of these videos. I know that's a fucking cop-out, but you're a completely different person now. I love you, I'm proud of you, and I'm fucking thankful you don't have a YouTube channel where you can share embarrassing stories about me because, by God, mine are worse. This next one is called Don't Cry Over Bruised Tomatoes, or How D&D Cost Me a Friend. Most of my D&D stories are had to have been there moments. This one's a more of a be glad you weren't there moment. First campaign. Friend disagrees with how I'm running the game. It builds a lot of conflict. He honestly makes an ass out of himself. Apologizes. Dude, it's okay, but if this ever happens again, I'll have to kick you out. He gets it. He says he gets it. Second campaign. Friend is back. He's a hot-headed dwarf. I've written this big divisive choice into the story, hoping to generate some conflict. It's been a while since my friend has lost his cool, but I think he can handle it. Whip out some random-ass hook before setting players in their hideout. Yeah, you're on your way back with some groceries. The dwarf and the henjokai get into a petty argument about something on the way back. Dwarf pitches a sack of tomatoes as hard as he can to the front door of the hideout. Blames the henjokai. Alright guys, we've got to do something with this artifact. And let me pause for a moment. I don't feel like my other stories have explained enough about it. The artifact is this green orb that they don't exactly know what it does, but Ian's character, the artificer, tried to figure out what it does.
What have I done? Failed miserably.
Yeah, and it like burned his arm off, and it like sucked his arm into the orb. So this is the point when they're basically like, all right, guys, we got to figure out what we're going to do with this artifact. They can either take it to knock off Japan and have it studied by the henjokai, Drekis' people, or take it to knock off Mordor. Dwarf obviously wants to go to the quote-unquote Mordor. Others want to go to the quote-unquote Japan. No real discussion ensues. The dwarf agrees to go to Japan if the henjokai apologizes for bruising the tomatoes. The tomatoes that the dwarf bruised. The tomatoes that he bruised. Those tomatoes. Henjokai doesn't know exactly what to do. My character isn't gonna apologize for something he didn't do. Well, you could always fake an apology to get us moving. Henjokai rolls bluff and beats the dwarf's insight. Okay, buddy, you're pretty convinced he's sincere. Off we go. But I know he's lying. Oh boy, here we go. Your character doesn't know he's lying. But I do. The circle jerk spins for a few more rounds. Dwarf claims I promised there would be no player versus player skill checks. I don't remember making any promise of the sort. I apologize and explained that there's definitely no rule against it, and it's what we're doing. His moaning is starting to get really hurtful. He's threatening to quit because of how disrespectful I've been. Now, this might be a good time to mention that he's a pretty big guy. I'm an enormous pussy. But I've honestly have enough of this shit. I lose my cool, I stand up, I raise my voice. I point my finger and tell him he should leave. He rolls to attack. Except it's not a game anymore. He's actually coming across the table at me. He balls up his fist. The artificer takes an attack of opportunity. Grapples the dwarf. He scolds him for starting a fight in his dad's dining room. Dwarf apologizes to the artificer. Tells me to go to hell. Hops into his ancient dwarven pickup truck and leaves. So later I drive over to Drew's house and try to sort this out. The argument kept coming down to the promise I supposedly made. I admitted multiple times that I may have said that, even though I didn't remember it, but it didn't excuse his behavior. Still, the argument circled the drain for a few more literal hours. Eventually, he told me to lose his number and never talk to him again. We had been friends through high school and most of college. We tried being friends again about a year later, but he stopped again over more petty shit. That feeling when you lose a friend over imaginary tomatoes. You want to jump in now?
It wasn't really so much of a grapple, but Ian did pop up and get in between you two. And I was on the other side of the table. There wasn't shit I could do but sit there and kind of put on my asshole a little bit. But, yeah, I thought shit was going to get intense. And we was going to have to pick Drew's body up off this table because Ian was going to backhand him through it.
That time in my life was beautiful in its own right because I had a lot of free time to hang out with people. But in terms of
I get that.
In terms of my mental health, it was probably one of the worst times of my whole fucking life.
I mean, yeah, and shit like that probably didn't happen.
Yeah, because I had dealt with a breakup that was probably one of the most traumatic things I had ever experienced. I was unemployed, and I was depressed, and he was one of my best friends in the world, but like at the same time, I didn't ever want to disappoint him, and he made a lot of demands that were unfair. And I just kind of caved in every time. And I was just like, no, you're being a dick right now. And he tried to fucking come at me. We're fine now. Like, we don't really hang out. Like, that's definitely driven a pretty deep divide between us. But, like, we're okay. Next chapter. Tricking the goddess of death. Or not. My players thought killing a witch would be really good for their reputation. Instead, they accidentally destroyed an actual fucking mountain. It's pretty clear there's no coming back from this. The town is pissed. There's a band of guards with hound dogs out in the front yard, shouting for someone named John Harkness. Hey, Captain Jack, who are they talking about? Damn.
Yeah, the gifts really help.
The guard outside is throwing Mad Jack under the bus as hard as he can. Turns out his real name is not Jack, but John Harkness. Turns out he's been resurrected from the dead about 14 times. Turns out he traded the lives of his former crew members to make some of those resurrections happen. I can explain. Saladin is pissed, but decides this conversation can happen later. The party sneaks out the back, catches glimpse of the guards setting their home on fire. They'd literally earned this headquarters by reclaiming it from fucking ghosts mere sessions prior, and now they're having to abandon it. No big deal, right? The party secures passage on a sailing vessel, sailing across the Arctic Circle to Nippon. The group confronts Harkness, who spills the beans. He found a black ritual book several years back, which explains how to summon the goddess of death. Resurrections work like a transaction. Price must be paid for a life. The more time someone is resurrected, the higher the price becomes. Harkness accrued such a tremendous life debt that his crew sacrificed themselves to save him without his consent. Saladin doesn't buy it and decides to find out for himself. Steals the ritual book, performs the ritual in secret. Moments later, the lower deck of the ship is filled with a gray mist. The other crew members appear to have vanished. The whole vessel has gone cold. Everwinter Company emerges from the bowels of the ship to find it sailing across a white abyss. Standing upon the bow is an enormous robed figure, her face obscured by shadow. One hand is feminine, fair, the fingers outstretched in welcome. The other hand is skeletal and clutching a grim scythe at the ready. Speak. Oh shit, we actually just summoned Death to answer some basic ass questions. We'd like to ask you some questions about John Harkness. There is silence for a moment. What will you offer in return? Zaladin snickers. Offer my right arm. Oh, so you think you slick, huh? Long story short, Zaladin's right arm is mechanical, and his original flesh is floating around in Satan's crystal ball. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the goddess has accepted the terms of the deal. She confirms Harkness' story to be true, and goes to collect the arm. Zaladin reveals it to be false, shit-eating grin and everything.
Boy, he was pissed. She was mad.
She snatched the chrysalis up from them, and is trying to pry what's left of Zal's arm from the artifact itself. She's a god, so she succeeds. But like before, the artifact attempts to make itself whole again. Suddenly we're back in reality. The crystal ball is flying all over the ship. Lightning is shooting out of it. It's zapping sailors and disintegrating their body parts. It's like the end of Infinity War, but with like noses and legs and dicks and shit. Drekis manages to catch the chrysalis in a bag. No one is dead, but almost the entire crew has been maimed in some way. The ball is now about half crystal and half random human body parts. My face when we were not even halfway to Nippon. So, correct me if I'm wrong, this wasn't even a full session. This was like something we did in my living room, right?
Yeah. This was a really short little... And boy, did we fuck it up real good.
So much of our campaigns have been like them asking you to do things and me being like, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to do it, but I don't really know what happens. So I'm just like, well, here's what I think happens. And it changes the whole story.
We're good at derailing stuff.
I'm pretty reasonably good at building new train tracks in that direction, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Part 6. Drekis, before this night is over, you will get laid. My campaign's gotten a little out of control. Everybody wave bye-bye to the main storyline. Instead, the party is cutting their losses and sailing across the sea to have a magical plot device examined. Okay, second country's a charm. Let's try to hire some help. If anyone asks, you've never even heard of Everwinter Company. Understood? Everyone but the shaman nods. He's still pretty tore up over the death of his wife. He was out of the country when it happened, and now he's home for the first time since her death. Zaladin the Blind offers some words of courage while facing the wrong way. Drekis, before this night is over, you will get laid. The shaman shrugs it off. We have bigger problems right now. His powers are inert until he finds a new spirit guardian. The group is down to 3 people, including the DM now, who is still struggling to roll high enough to justify his NPC's lofty backstory. And to top it all off, they have basically no money. Suddenly, as if guided by narrative timing, the city's under attack. It's the local nature god, an enormous wolf spirit given physical form. Something bad has happened. He's covered in writhing black ooze. Yeah, I plagiarized Princess Mononoke. Want to fight about it? The artist formerly known as Everwinter spring into action. With the help of an enormous bugbear slave fighter named Bolar. Try as they might, nothing seems to penetrate the layer of slime on the enormous beast. They're doing no damage. Finally, someone hits it with something radiant. An opening forms in the ooze. Zaladin has a bright idea. Can electrical damage count as radiant? I shrugged the regretful shrug 1,000 DMs have shrugged before. Sure? Zaladin has an idea. Zaladin procures a metal orb from his bag and pitches it into the beast's open mouth. Me, an intellectual, He just swallows it. Your orb is gone. Oh boy, here we go. I can use the orb as the point of origin for all my attacks. Zeldin proceeds to electrocute the shit out of this ancient forest god from the inside out. I'm outright flabbergasted at this point. Okay, yeah, all the goop is burning off. Everyone goes apeshit on this poor wolf. Once it's slain, Drekis the shaman approaches, whispers tender apology. The wolf spirit doesn't understand what's happened. Says a strange man approached him, a man possessed by evil. That's a plot hook I can explain another day. Fueled by the hunger for revenge, the dying soul of this forest god agrees to bond with Drekis as his new guardian spirit. Meanwhile, the entire city is singing the praises of these brave men. Everything they hope to achieve in Everwinter has arrived in the span of a few hours. You're invited to the palace for an audience with the Shogun. Say no more, fam. The party drives their new horse-drawn carriage to the palace. No horses or vehicles past the gates. You must walk from here. Zaladine, do you know who I am? And to make a correction, that didn't do any good. But then Saladin was like, well, do you know who he is?
Yeah. Who he is was what really kicked the bucket.
Yeah. So Drekis' character, of course, was an ambassador for the Fae. And the Fae government was kind of superseded the human government in Nippon. And he was kind of trying not to have to pull rank if he didn't have to. But this was the time. Drekis pulled rank.
I didn't pull rank. He pulled rank for me.
Yeah, I guess.
He grabbed my arm and yanked my sleeve up.
And showed them your tattoo, yeah.
Yeah.
The party somehow manages to drive the horse-drawn carriage past the shouting guards. Me, a man of authority. Aw, man. There's the stairs here, guys. That's too bad, huh? Our new bugbear companion, who is played by Nick, and his name is Bolar. He says, that's okay. I'll just get out and push while the horses pull. Say what? A parade of completely unwarranted foolishness is now making its way up 100 steps and into the great hall of some feudal royalty. The guards are getting pretty pissed off now. They're actively chasing us. All right, guys, the joke's over. Zaladin whips the horses with the reins. The carriage is now moving at full sprint towards the final set of doors. Guys, what the fuck? Zaladin laughing and rolling his dumbass blind head. Lol, we gotta make a good entrance. The party blows the doors open with magic. Zaladin attempts to slow the horses down by making a sharp turn. You can't drift in a fucking horse-drawn carriage, so instead the whole thing flips over into a rolling crash. Captain Harkness, who will basically never do anything cool again, rolls acrobatics to simply step out of the carriage as it crashes. Success. As the horses wildly stamp the carriage into pieces behind him, Harkness rolls forward into a kneel, tips his hat, and says, shit, we never came up with a new name for our team. May I introduce the Horsemen of the Apocalypse? He looks up. The Shogun is a woman. She's impressed? Zaladine says, wait, who here smells like a lady? Zal can't leave well enough alone, starts spitting game hard. Shogun mostly ignores them, says the heroes must be tired and unclean, offers them a stay at the local onsen, a hot spring inn. Zal's advances are getting pretty raunchy. The party restrains him long enough to accept and bail. Later that evening, the horsemen arrive at the onsen. Other patrons are clearly upset by the presence of this bugbear. Officials and proprietors call their nerves, announce the arrival of the city's heroes. Okay, so the men's baths are over here and the women's baths are over here. Just follow the signs. Zaladin the Blind. I can't read shit. Once everyone is split up, Zal grabs Drekis. Okay, so here's the plan.
This is actually my idea.
Okay, so Drekis says, okay, so here's the plan. Drekis offers up a convoluted plot that requires high charisma and actual magic. Why go through all this trouble? Reasons. Drekis, being a Henjokai, turns into a fox. Zaladin stumbles into the women's bath. Oh my god, what are you doing here? Well, you see. Sorry, ladies, I'm just trying to catch my seeing eye fox. He seems to have led me into some trouble again. God fucking damn it. Feeling sorry for the blind man. Oh, it's no trouble at all. Drekis, buying into the bluff now, starts making rolls as a fox. Oh my god, your fox is so cute! Everything is going according to plan. Drekis changes back into a human. Wait, Drekis changes back into a human? The ladies say, what's going on? Drekis, 1,000 pardons, my ladies, but you see, I've been under a sinister curse. One that could only be broken by true love. Oh my fucking god. The ladies are swooning. The players are laughing. Gary Gygax is rolling in his fucking grave. About 5 minutes into the most unlikely group sex in all of history, Bola the bugbear says, hey guys, what you doing? Jesus fucking Christ. Just make a skill check and get over with. Your charisma's too low too. You son of a bitch. And that's the story of how yet another well-written narrative about gods, devils, and mysterious plots devolved into a fucking Middle-earth gangbang. Drekis got laid. I hope you're fucking happy, Ian.
I remember you making us actually roll Constitution to see how long we lasted. We got in depth with our nookie.
Yep.
And there's still a good bit of nookie to be had after this particular part.
Hey everybody, Gatsby here. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. If you've never seen one of these, we've been putting out video cuts of the podcast where we talked about all of our previous D&D campaigns, and that was a good time. So you can either stick around for the last one, or you can go straight to the audio source and listen to the whole thing all at once. But we're gearing up to do a radio show of our current D&D campaign, Tabula Librum, which I'm also going to put out in video format. That's meant to just be sort of an off-week thing. Traditional Bro Op episodes are still coming out. I appreciate you guys for all your support, and thanks again.